Oda has finally gave us an answer for the question of who is stronger, Loki or Luffy. And I think after their individual fights against Imu, I think it's very clear at this point that Loki is stronger. And to a lot of people, this seems to be some fucking hot topic, some like wild take that Loki has been stronger than Luffy this whole time. But in my opinion, this has always been the case since the Harold and Zebek flashback. I think that Loki has always been stronger than Luffy. So in this video, I want to try and explain why I think that Loki is stronger than Luffy and why that's always been the case. First up, I want to look at their performance in the fight with Imu. Can we prove that Loki did better than Luffy in their fights? I think the first thing we can do is look at the length of the fights. Loki lasted much longer than Luffy. And on top of that, if we look at the actual fight, Loki does so much better than Luffy does. Initially, Loki goes in for a giant hammer swing against Imu and shows insane amounts of destruction capabilities and conquers Haki. Imu has to block this attack with a Maki Haki, fireball type of thing, blocks the hammer, and we can see that they're not even touching. Sometime after this, Loki is hit with a Nemesis attack, piercing through his entire body, through his chest with a giant sword. Loki is able to eat that attack and is able to re-attack Imu, like speed blitzing Imu. Imu is able to get out of there in time, but it still shows amazing durability and endurance out of Loki. Loki is stabbed multiple times in this fight, and he's able to keep fighting through it. Even now, he's on the sidelines, not really dead, but he's just still out of it. And the speed that we see from Loki is insane. He's able to get a shot in on Imu when they're daydreaming about Joy Boy. Luffy couldn't even sneak Imu. Luffy tried to sneak Imu and Imu was able to dodge it easily. When you look at the fight against Loki, Imu gets caught off guard multiple times and gets scared a couple times when Loki goes in for an attack, so it just seems like Imu was threatened much more by Loki than by Luffy. And when we look at Luffy's performance, it's just night and fucking day, because the strongest attack Luffy even attempts is this sucker punch with this genie form. And Imu is able to block that shit easily with a palm. So in terms of just like the attacks that Luffy is trying compared to Loki, Loki is out here doing so much more destruction, using so much more damage against Imu, and Imu has to try way harder to block these attacks or counter. And in terms of endurance and durability, Luffy gets stabbed one time and he's cooked. Even the narrators like Luffy after just one hit from Imu. I mean, Luffy takes one attack and is done. Loki gets stabbed through multiple times, and even now he is fine on the sidelines. So why did Luffy get gassed up so much? Why did people have this opinion that Luffy was just stronger than Loki the whole time? Well, I blame Oda for that, because Luffy has been unbeatable since Wano. Since we have left Wano, the last time that Luffy's been defeated in Wano by Kaido, Luffy has done nothing but win. Throughout the entirety of Egghead and the beginning of Elbaf, Luffy has taken nothing but W's and has been gassing himself up. Luffy enters this fucking genie form in this fight just messing around and gets absolutely shit on. The genie form does nothing because Luffy's just gassing himself up. He's blowing smoke up his ass. And the entire arc, Luffy has been talking about how he can beat Loki up, so everyone just assumes that he's talking the truth. And Luffy is strong as fuck. Like, I'm not denying that Luffy is not strong as fuck. I think that Luffy is one of the strongest people in the story. I would say that no time limit Luffy is as strong as Kaido, Whitebeard, Roger, Garp, all of those top tiers, all of those Yonko caliber fighters. The one thing that holds Luffy back is his time limit. That's the only thing that holds him back, because in Wano, he just didn't have a time limit, and that's how he was able to beat Kaido. So if Oda decides to not give Luffy a time limit, Luffy is that strong. He is as strong as Kaido. Kaido was out here hitting him with good Kankurosaki attacks, and he was just taking them. But against Imu, he's getting cooked in one attack. And when we look at like Luffy's actual strength, his Devil Fruit is insane as fuck. The Nika Fruit is the strongest fruit in the series, so compared to Kaido's fruit or Whitebeard's fruit, Luffy's is better. Roger and Garp don't even have a fruit, and when it comes to Haki, Luffy matches them. Luffy is able to go blow for blow with Kaido and split the skies, so it's not like Luffy has some, low-level conquers Haki. Luffy quote-unquote wins in a Haki clash in the final attack of Elbaf, beating Kaido. The Bajrang gun is a Haki attack. That's how he won, was through Haki. That's what the narrator literally says. Luffy has equal Haki to Kaido or better, which is equal to Whitebeard, Roger, and Garp. I don't care. Kaido is that strong. So if Luffy doesn't have a time limit, he's beating Kaido. So Luffy is strong as fuck. I am not denying that. He is a top tier already. So I can see why people would say that Loki is weaker than Luffy, because Luffy has done all these great things and we just haven't seen that much out of Loki. Like the entire time of Elbaf, we just keep hearing over and over how Luffy says he can beat Loki up. And Loki was just introduced and we really haven't got that many feats out of him. Yes, he freezes one of the monsters. It doesn't prove that much. But we do have some feats, and I think that they just put the nail in the coffin right away. And that's because Loki outperforms Harold, and Harold is stronger than Kaido. Loki is able to perform the feat of beating Ragnar, which is something that Harold could not do. And Harold is someone who is equal to Zebek. In this Haki clash that destroys everything in a 5-kilometer radius is better than anything that Roger or Kaido or Whitebeard or Garp has done. This hockey feat by Harold and Zebek is better than anything that Luffy's done. So I would place Harold and Zebek a tier above the Luffys, the Kaidos, the Rogers, the Whitebeards. And Loki is able to do something that Harold cannot do. And Harold says, with my current strength, with this buff from Imu, I can now beat Ragnar. So that means that Loki comes in with a random fucking hammer in his Conqueror's Haki and is able to outperform Harold. So at a bare minimum, Loki, when he gets Ragnar, is stronger than Harold, at least by a little bit. And then what he does is he eats the fucking Nidhogg fruit and then absolutely destroys a boosted Harold. I just don't see how he can leave this whole throne room incident and be weaker than Harold in any way. It makes zero fucking sense to me how people can place him below Harold and Kaido, because Harold was said to have the power to end the world if he gets this fruit. Multiple times by multiple characters. Ja Rule says it, Zebek says it. If Harold gets this fruit, it's gonna be the end of the fucking world. And Loki literally gets the fucking fruit that everyone says is going to end the world if that ancient giant gets it. So it's like, dude, Loki is literally better than Harold in every aspect. He's able to get Ragnar, and then you give him the world-busting devil fruit, the Nidhogg fruit. And then on top of that, Loki gets 6 years of practice on the sea with the Nidhogg fruit, and he has a hybrid form in the bag that he hasn't used yet. Like, Loki should easily be stronger than Luffy. Just because Loki hasn't shown it doesn't mean that he hasn't outclassed Harold. He outclassed Harold on Harold's deathbed. Loki is able to do what Harold could not and get Ragnar, and then he eats the fruit that is supposed to be the most fucking top tier fruit possible. So I just don't see how people were confused about the Loki and Luffy debate, because I've always had Loki higher than Luffy since this moment, and this fight with Imu proved that. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you think I'm wrong, please tell me down in the comments. But that's all I got for today's video. See ya.